There is perhaps no more pure an example of a trail bike than Trek's Fuel EX. Despite the ever-changing landscape, the EX has somehow always iterated right along with our definition of the trail bike category, and planted itself right smack in the middle of it for almost as long as we've been making asses of ourselves in front of the camera, which this year we did in Park City, Utah.
This bike has a really similar suspension to the Orbea Occam that we tested, and I was frothing about that bike. And then I rode this bike, and it's awesome. It handles really well, and it's super capable, and the suspension works really good. But my froth level was less, and I have no valid reason for that.
Okay, cool. You've helped the reader out a lot on that one.
Yeah, really moving this one along, Mike.
Did my part, man.
In my notes, I have all of those things written, and I have safe as well. Like it's just.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a safe buy.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have fun with this bike. You're gonna, it's
going to work well. It will be capable in all situations.
Yeah, it's engineered well. It's got good suspension on it. It's just like a super well-rounded, awesome bike.
Yeah, it's like, I think I described it in my notes as, it's like a varsity athlete, letters in both hoops and football. Probably steal your girlfriend, but you'll like him anyway, because he's a super nice guy.
Yeah, it's true.
It's what modern trail bike like that, the bike that you have, if you're not gonna have a bunch of bikes, you got one bike, and you kind of have to do all your riding on it.
Yeah.
This is a really good call. It's a safe bet.
Yeah, and it's got like those Mino Link chips in it, so you can adjust the geometry a little bit, right? Like you can go from a 66 to like a 66.5 head angle if you want, you know? Like we rode it and it comes in the low position. And like in that position, it's a little bit conservative compared to some of the other like bikes in the travel category, but I think that's what makes this bike great for a lot of riders, you know? It's not really like a shred sled. It's just a pure trail bike.
But yeah, it's only got one 30mm rear travel. It's like a 66 head angle for that kind of travel. I wouldn't say it's not cutting edge like 64-degree head angle.
Oh, it's safe is what you're saying.
There we go. And there we go again.
Yeah, and it has in the size large, it has like a 470 reach, safe, right? It's got a 75-degree seat angle, safe. It's not too crazy steep. It's like it's comfortable. People are used to this, right? Like they're stretching things out, they're slackening things out, they're making the travel a little bit longer here and there, but they're taking small steps, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's good for the Fuel EX customer, you know, because there are people who buy this bike, they buy every iteration, like they're addicted to this model, right? And you're not going to surprise anybody. Like this will happen with the Norco Sight, right? Like it's a way different bike than it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think what's nice about the EX is that it's not like changing its identity every time it iterates, you know?
No, very, very subtle changes. It's evolved into, I had this bike 3 years ago, the previous generation. I had built it up kind of identical to what this looks like now, minus of course the difference in the angles, but bigger fork, bigger tires, all the things that this looks exactly like now.
Yeah, it's like we kind of like asked for these things, right? And then
now we got them.
We got them.
We got them. And
it's got a 36 fork on it, like Grip
brilliant.
2 damper.
Absolutely.
I mean, like it's a trail bike with Beefy Suspension, which is awesome. Like I think that trail bikes should have high quality suspension, and like this bike soaks up the trail really well. And that rear damper is nice. Like I like the way that Reactive works with the through shaft and everything. It's like a really, really nice shock. You can keep it in that middle setting most of the time.
I tied for my best climb on this bike.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was on a wet day too with greasy roads, 2.6 tire, lower pressure, and it was a very composed, very comfortable climb, and it didn't put a step wrong the whole way up.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And Trek, for being somewhat conservative sometimes, has taken some leaps. Like they were one of the first companies to spec a 2.6 tire on their trail bikes, and I think that's a good move. Like everybody wants 2.6s now, it seems like.
Well, especially with a little more of a purposeful, intentional, full off-road bias. Yeah, if you're riding burlier trails, you want burlier tires.
Yeah.
The overall spec is impressive, as it should be on a top-level build. Some testers loved Trek's choice to spec Shimano XT 4-piston brakes, along with the SRAM XO drivetrain, while others missed the modulation and tidy cockpit and all SRAM spec would have provided. Stepping down to the 9.8 keeps the Fox 36 but loses the more advanced Grip 2 damper, but otherwise, you'll save a lot of money for an almost identical ride experience.
As a note of the composer, I set the bike up, got on it, started riding, and really didn't have any adjustment time. Like, we ride all these different bikes here, and a lot of the time you have to kind of just figure out where your balance is on it, where your center of gravity is, how the bike's behaving, how it acts as you go around corners, and just get used to what each little individual niggly nuance of each bike is, right?
Yeah.
And this was just like on it, riding, didn't really think about it. And we start each loop on a climb, get to the top of the climb, start going downhill, and just rail down the hill, off the little booter jump, into the roots, down the next root garden, down the big, weird, steep, sketchy thing with the big root drop into it and the off-camber exit. I didn't think about that either. It's just kind of...
It's intuitive.
I guess. I didn't intuit that, but I just didn't really think about it. And like, one of the higher compliments you can give a bike is if it disappears under you.
Yeah, I think so too.
I didn't really spend much time. I tried to, on the second time I rode it, to try to find things that I didn't like about it, just to sort of find some balance or balance of critique. And it's just, yeah, it's a really intuitive, easy bike to ride that does everything pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I feel like that reactive shock works great in its middle mode, you know, like.
Yeah.
But if you open it up, it actually becomes, it kind of,
plush.
it gets rid of the whole reactive valving and just
Right.
opens the thing up, and then it's even plusher. And that's what I really liked on particularly this course, because it was, you know, all that like shelfy, rooty stuff.
You can
Like,
you
it
can
just
feel the
really-
roots a little better.
Yeah, you can feel them a little better, and it just like, yeah, it just helps out that much more with traction and everything. So I think like for extended downhills, I prefer to open it up.
I'd agree with that.
But yeah, like I just feel like the bike kind of handles whatever you throw at it. It's not gonna take like the steepest, rowdiest downhills super well, but that's not what it's about, right? That's remedy / territory.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a
Yeah.
compromise for this bike at
Yeah.
all. I would say that was its design intention. This is
Exactly.
where it hits the mark perfectly.
Yeah. The other thing we haven't talked about yet with the new frame, kind of like what Specialized did with theirs, their SWAT thing, Trek has added something like that. It's like a down tube storage device. You can take like a lid off like where the water bottle goes, and you can stuff stuff in the down tube. And I think that's really cool for packless riding. And it's like you always have spares on you. You can never forget them as long as you're storing them in there. You know?
It's fun messing with people who have that, and it's their bike, and you can put like sausages and things down it,
Yeah.
and just leave them there for a few weeks
Yeah,
too, or a
dead
fish.
fish.
Yeah,
Yeah, these things are
Like
great.
grumpy old men style.
Yeah.
But
It's very easy pranking.
as a note of like functionality to it, like compared to the SWAT box, this is pretty. It's very similar in intent, slightly different execution. It's actually got a little locking lever on it that holds it in place, and
Yeah.
is
I think
really
it's
easy
easier
to
to
use.
operate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
nice-
the
nice
opening
putting-
actually isn't quite as big, so it's harder to fit some things like
Yeah,
in
you can't
there.
put as many big fish
Yeah.
in there.
And you do
Exactly. You
need.
use sardines really instead.
But they work well.
Yeah, it's
So
true. They still
serve the
stick.
purpose. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I will say this, though. It is really handy putting a water bottle cage on there when you're holding the thing it screws into in your hand.
Right?
That's really
You don't have to
nice.
worry about getting the Allen wrench into
No,
the
it's
top tube.
fantastic. See, that's what I was thinking about.
Okay.
The meat of the trail bike bell curve is more capable than it's ever been, but the Fuel EX remains predictable, balanced, and easy to ride. With so much choice and range in the market, it's nice to know the Fuel EX will always be a solid buy. We've got the full review and the rest of the Bible Bike Test videos at bikemag.com.